Convert each angle from radians to degrees. To perform the conversion, we're going to use what I call a well-chosen 1. Because when we multiply any quantity by 1, it doesn't change the initial value. But we want to choose our 1 wisely, and let's recall that both pi radians and 180 degrees measure the same size of an angle, so the ratio of those quantities is equal to 1. Of course, we could have pi over 180, or we could have 180 degrees over pi radians, and both of these ratios are equal to 1. Since we want to convert into degrees, we're going to choose this ratio because it has the units degrees in the top and the units of radians in the bottom. Of course, radians aren't written because when we measure an angle in radians, the units are not indicated. So we'll be using this version of the ratio that's equal to 1. So we'll bring that up here, and we're going to multiply this quantity by 180 degrees divided by pi. So we see that the pi in the numerator here cancels with the pi in the denominator here. We also have a factor of 5 in the denominator that will cancel into the 180, which leaves us with 36 here. And now we're ready to multiply straight across. So we have negative 3 times 36 in the numerator, which is negative 108. But notice we still have the units of degrees, so this is 108 degrees. Now again, radian units are not written, but if we were to consider this as being a measure of an angle in radians, and then pi would be the measure of the angle in radians, those radian units would have canceled out, but again, they actually weren't there to begin with, so no need to illustrate that cancellation. Again, here we're going to use the same multiplier, 180 degrees divided by pi radians. You can think about that as wanting the radians to cancel out so that we can have the units of degrees that remains in the numerator. So now let's multiply, and we see that the pi's cancel, and then 3 goes into 180 60 times, and now let's multiply across. So we have 8 times 60, which is 480, and the units that remain are degrees. So the angle 8 pi over 3 measured in radians converts to 480 degrees. This last example looks quite different, so let's expand it a bit to clearly indicate what's happening. This is an angle whose measure is 2 radians. I'm indicating radians here in parentheses again because radians don't carry units. So this angle measured in radians can be multiplied by a well-chosen 1 in the form of 180 degrees divided by pi. We choose this version because we want the degree unit to remain in the numerator. So we multiply across here, we get 360 divided by pi degrees. Now this is a strange looking value, so it may look a little nicer if we were to get an approximation here. Dividing 360 by pi, we would get 114.6, and again the units are degrees. But the directions said to indicate our answers using exact values, so this would be the answer, although it looks a little nicer if you were to approximate.